And we are back. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Stirring Up. Today we're going to talk about the election. Oh, man. So I'll let you start off, Mike. So what's good?
What's going on, man? Nice to finally be back. It's been a little while, but
Yeah, original member, man.
nice. It's nice.
All right, bro. So how you feeling? I mean, what is your take of the fact that Kamala Harris did everything right? They're going to sit around and they're going to try to blame minorities. They're going to try to blame, the black men. They're going to try to blame everybody except for the people who really mattered in this election, and that's white people. So, with that said, I'll leave the floor to you to just tell me your thoughts on the situation.
Uh, so my thoughts on the situation is it's not a surprise. Um, I've said this. I've been saying this for a while. I said it to my wife. I said it to my friends at work. Everybody was, anticipating a different outcome, but no one could ever tell me why. You know what I'm saying, and so it it didn't surprise me because I don't see a stark contrast between what was different with Kamala running and what was different with Hillary running. I,
Okay.
I didn't see a stark difference when it came to the heartbeat of the country and what people in this country on a grand scale deem important. And I think it's a democratic issue. I've long thought it was a democratic issue. And by Democrats, I mean like deep, like liberal, far left issue, like the individuals that are running the party. And like I said, no one could really tell me why it was going to be any different with Kamala running than it was for Hillary. Because if you look at Hillary, and here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I felt exactly the way I felt. Because Democrats and liberals have a tendency to think that everyone thinks like they do or should think like them. And the problem that I have with the way that the Democratic Party feels now, it's like the far left to me, a lot of times when they do things from a political basis, it's from a platform of intellectual superiority. A place where it's like they support things if it makes sense, and they have this ideology that they want everyone to be happy and be included and be this all inclusive kind of place where everyone gets everything that they want, and everyone's going to be happy with the results.
Mm-hmm.
No one feel alienated, and no one is going to feel like they're not a part of whatever. And that's really not the way the world works. And America, if anything, is a microcosm of how the world actually. And I found one as a father that is the most important thing that I found that I of doing is teaching my children that the world is not how you feel like it should.
Hey, Dio. Go
The
ahead.
world is the way that it is. You know what I'm saying? And I have to teach them to move about the world as it is, not how I want it to be. You know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
have to see things at face value. And the problem is that liberals kind of do things from this platform of we want everyone to get along, and if you don't think a certain way, then shame on you. And they don't really understand that the agenda they've been pushing and the manner in which they've been pushing it don't matter to most people. And the problem, not really the problem with Trump, but what made Trump so enticing to people is that he's unapologetic about who he is. And he's unapologetic about why he does things. He's unapologetic about everything. Like he doesn't. He has a certain I don't give an F about stuff, and people find that endearing, you know. And it's like it appeals to a lot of people because he has this mentality of I'm a winner, and if I'm not a winner, then someone cheated, and there's no possible way that things don't go my way because they have to, and if they don't, then the system is rigged against me, and he'll create this narrative, and his followers will just follow along blindly because they want to win. They want to support someone that is an unabashed whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I said this last time, and I don't know if I said it on one of our videos, but Trump is whatever he has to be for whoever it is he's in front of. And people want to say that Trump's a racist, and people want to say that Trump is this and Trump is that. Trump is exactly who he needs to be to accomplish whatever it is that he wants to accomplish. And that's the issue that I think that liberals don't really understand is that he that makes him so much more difficult to deal with as a candidate because the things that liberals think that people care about, they just don't. And at the end of the day, the great equalizer for who you are as a person, the great equalizer is the voting booth. Like, if I'm a racist, or I'm a sexist, or I'm a transphobe, or I'm a homophobe, none of those things are going to be showcased to the world while I'm in a voting booth. You know what I'm saying? No one knows what my vote is going to be. You know what I'm saying? So there's a large demographic of people that would never go to a Trump rally.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be caught dead with a MAGA hat. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be dead with a Trump flag. They wouldn't be caught dead even talking positively about Donald Trump. But they have voted for him before, and they voted for him this time. And it for some reason dumbfounds Democrats how that's possible.
Well,
And
I wanted to say something about the dumbfounded part there. But Democrats are the way the country should be. Republicans are the way the country is.
right,
And therein lies the conflict between, see, like, I don't think liberals are, I think white liberals are in denial. Absolutely. No questions asked. They're walking around talking about, I'm shocked. I
right,
can't believe it. Like, your uncle is a devout racist. Your mom is a racist. Your friends and family are racist, are transphobes, are homophobes, are xenophobes. You hear this every single day. What affected white Americans the most is adaptation sensory. So they adapted to the bigotry so much that it's been normalized. They don't even see it anymore. Like, I had friends who are white go, well, tell me the next time you experience a microaggression. Like, why should I have to tell you? Stay the fucking awake, right? Pay the fucking attention. Like, you shouldn't be that hard. But what I realize is that they've been conditioned from birth. Like, this is something that's been going over for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. White people came to this country and thought they were superior to Native Americans, but they couldn't survive on their own without Native Americans teaching them how to farm. Right? They got here and they died in hundreds of thousands on the first cold winter. Right? But they still thought, because of Queen in England, that whiteness was superior, and these pseudo scientists taught them for hundreds of years that their whiteness was superior based on that alone. Like I said to my girl, I said, what you don't realize is that white people want to be white more than they want to be American. And they want to be in front more than they want freedom. And like you said, Trump was unabashed. I don't even think that was Trump, just sounded like the people around him. He was comfortable. The way he talks, the way he acts, his simpleton behavior is comforting to them because it's something they heard constantly through their years. They had an uncle that sounded like Trump. They got a mom that sounds like Trump. They got a dad. They got a best friend that sounds like Trump. Trump did not create a. Trump is not in a vacuum, right? Trump is not unique. He's got the mental ability of a 5-year-old, but he was rich. He came from money, and that if anybody else who didn't have the wealth he had, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Well, I disagree. I disagree in the sense of you saying Trump is not unique. And I disagree because I think Trump actually is unique. And I think he's unique from the standpoint of he was the first person that actually acknowledged that the country is super racist, so I'm going to openly tap
Well, no,
into
no, I want to push back on that. He didn't. He wasn't the first person to acknowledge it because we got David Duke, we got Nazis, but he was the first person in a position of power who wanted to run for politics that went all the way Nazi.
it. But that's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying like that he was the first person to acknowledge like as in like, oh, I'm just going to be openly racist. He is the first person that ran from that platform that was like, I'm going to just openly embrace it.
I would
And
disagree with that too because David Duke ran for office and the country was different then. See, this is the reality of the world today. The country was different then. They rejected David Duke. David Duke ran in the 70s and the 80s and then tried to run again in the 90s to become president of the United States as a devout KKK racist. But America rejected him. What we're seeing now is a country that has become desensitized. And I
Mhm,
blame it on the media. Like CNN normalized Trump.
mhm.
They were trying to get ratings off of that. YouTube, YouTube until recently did not demonetize hate channels. Like in the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, you could be a devout racist on YouTube and be monetized, making bucks off of it. Everyone did. You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden they're demonetizing Candace Owens, but they waited until she was saying things about Jewish Americans. Then they started to demonetize her. She's always been racist towards black people, but that was normalized on YouTube. YouTube, like every institution in the world, is funded by white supremacy. And people are like, what do you mean funded by white supremacy? White supremacy is capitalism. And capitalism in itself will fund and support these institutions. You know, CNN is never going to say that white people are racist to their bone and that they all need to get therapy because that's not good for their advertisers. So when you normalize, like perfect example, everybody's it's the economy, it's this. No, it was just white supremacy. Half of Americans voted for white supremacy because that was more important. Being white and being in front and having all the advantages that come with whiteness. That they look in 2020, they lost their minds because the first time in their lives, they felt like a black person. They couldn't go where they wanted to. They couldn't do what they wanted to. They had no advantages. If they walked and wild out in a Walmart, they got arrested. They put a mask on. They got treated a certain way. They realized they were just for a couple months. They realized the experience of black people all the time and could not handle it, handle it at all. And they all lost their minds. Every single one of them. COVID and MAGA go hand in hand. If there was no COVID, we would have no MAGA because the power that was given to that institution was solidified with the experience of blackness. That's why you think he attacks, Haitians in Ohio. That makes sense. Hate white people, hate black people, kill black people. Well, I fear. I mean, look, America is about to go to hell in a basket, and white people deserve everything that's about to happen to them because they really believe that they're insulated from reality. The fact is they have the same issues buying a house, they have the same issues with healthcare. He's about to fuck up their social security. He's about to fuck up the economy, and I'm gonna sit here and eat popcorn. Everything is about to happen to him. I'm like, hey, you asked for that. I had a cousin, right? I always stood up for Arab and Jewish Americans because I knew if they do something to them, they will do it to me. right? She was silent. All of a sudden, 9/11 happens. She's got a Muslim daughter, a Muslim husband. All of a sudden now they're looking at her like, oh, you're a terrorist. Oh, your family's terrorists. And all of a sudden she's upset and concerned. And I was like, yeah, because you lived your whole life with blonde hair and blue eyes. Never once thought about the reality of anybody else's experience. As soon as you realize that you're not white, that blonde hair, blue eyes with that last name of Hussein ain't going to protect you. Ooh, boy, the reality hit her. And she's in my message, she's messaging me like, I'm so worried. Motherfucker, I live every day worried.
Right. Well, I think that you have to really take into consideration that it's not above a certain demographic of white people to vote against their own interests. That's almost like the platform of the Republican Party. Because if you think about it, the Republican Party is like rich elite whites convincing poor whites that they have the same agenda.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And they do it under this false narrative of, religion and Christianity, and they've kind of put their flag into this almost like moral, like construct that they've falsely created for themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
and the problem is that at the end of the day, they genuinely don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And Trump is a perfect example of that because they talk about morality and this, that, and the other. And
He was a
when Trump,
convicted rapist.
right, Trump is the least moral person ever run for office. Period. Ever. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And but if you go and you poll white Christians, evangelicals, his you know what I'm saying, his support is 98% probably in that demographic. You know what I'm saying? And so you really have to understand what it is like. White supremacy trumps all of those things. And what
White, thank you, thank you. That you're
it, trumps,
absolutely right.
it trumps all of those things, and it's like they before I'm before I'm a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
before a teacher, before I'm a police officer, before I'm a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
before I'm a firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
before I'm a doctor, before I'm a postman, before I'm a construction worker, before I am a warehouse worker, I am white. So, and what Trump kind of ran on is like, listen, I'm going to protect your whiteness. And the things that you feel that are going to jeopardize that, I'm going to go after those things.
Mm-hmm.
Immigrants, you don't like immigrants, neither do I. I'll make sure that whatever. You know what I'm saying? We
Mm-hmm.
and they want to do it through this pseudo guise of, immigration and whatever it is. But at the end of the day, he ran on a platform of protecting whiteness. And
That's it.
there's a demographic of black people that are always going to vote against their own interests. It's just
Well, no, no, no. I would say there's a demographic of white people that are their interest lies in protecting whiteness.
well, that's a given. That's a large portion. You know what I'm saying? That's a large portion of you
Black
know
Americans. Yeah,
that's a large portion of just white America. Period. It's like they're going to protect whiteness before everything else, and so that to me that's a given. There's a demographic of people, and if you look at the polling, it wasn't like black people didn't push Trump into office.
no, no. But they're gonna blame the what hundreds of black men that voted for him. He got hundreds of black votes, and somehow that pushed him over the edge. You know what got him elected?
No, no, no,
White
no.
people that you called out before who
It was
would
white
never be seen. Go ahead.
Hispanics and white women that pushed Trump into
Yep.
office. Straight up, it's just, and that's just what the data proves. White men were going to support Trump
Regardless.
regardless. Yeah, it was going to be a large demographic, and at the end of the day, I'm going to say this, and it's not popular, um, but I, America is still super racist and super sexist, and
But
America,
is that? Thank you. Look, this is what I've said for a long time.
yeah,
America is a racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic country. That is its foundation. And black people can't save this country. No matter how hard you fight, you cannot change a people who needs therapy. They need therapy, not God. They need therapy.
Yeah, and but here's the thing though. The problem is that Democrats feel like they got to change all of those things, and they
But
feel
I
like they
mean, it's not wrong. I don't think Democrats are wrong for feeling they should have to change those things because they should. I think the problem is that a lot of white Democrats aren't truthful about the country. Like, look, perfect example. Like I said before, you know who normalized white supremacy? It wasn't Fox News. It was
mm,
CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, because they are literally funded by the tool of white supremacy, true hard growth of capitalism. And for if to tell the truth about your people will cause you to lose advertisement funds, you're not going to do it. See, I when Charlemagne was on CNN and he was being nice, but I would have said straight up, y'all normalize this shit. Fox News is trash. You know who watch Fox News? People who ain't got they already gonna watch it.
yeah,
Those people you ain't those people you ain't normalizing it to. But for years they normalized this language. White liberals act shocked. But like I said before, look, Dave Chappelle said some dumb shit to me. That's why I don't even fuck with him no more. He was like, I don't understand anybody who don't fuck with somebody because of the beliefs they have or the things they say. Man, there has to be a cost to what you do. Now, Dave Chappelle, you insulated not from what the ramifications of blackness, but from the fundamental threat to blackness, and that's capitalism. When you have enough funds, you can pay your rent, you can be canceled and survive. The average black person doesn't have that ability. See, people think like that white privilege is monetary. It's not. You know what white privilege is? It's a singular devotion to a concept that enough people will always support, even if you don't. White people who reject racism still benefit from racism. See, I can reject it. I can even say racism doesn't exist. I'll never benefit from what I'm saying though. All those black men who supported Trump are never going to benefit from anything that he does. They're always going to be seen as a threat. Like you're not going to be like, oh, driving in your car, cop pulls up, pulls a gun, you go, oh, I voted for Trump. He don't give a fuck. He don't believe you. That what? What do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to get treated the same way. The problem is blackness is considered a threat by institutional systems in our country, the justice system, the economic system. Look, capitalism literally says that some lives matter and some lives don't. I mean, whose lives do you think they're referring to when they say some lives don't matter? That's what capitalism literally is.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? So the normalization of this kind of language, this is why white people were acting shocked at things Trump said. I said, you know damn well you heard that from your uncle years ago. You heard that from your cousin. You heard that from your mom saying racist shit around you your whole life. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about, like I wanted to bring up how memories are created. So something I've really enjoyed when I was studying psychology. So the way memories and long-lasting memories are created is by a function known as consolidation, right? So the parts of your memory and the parts of your imagination happen in the same parts of your brain. And your memories are not all contained in like some memory bank. They're all over the place.
hmm
Here's the thing though. If you're brought up in a place where even if your parents aren't overtly racist, but they say things like white people always did this. White people always we elevated this country. We saved Native Americans. We saved black people. This is the language that happens in white households. I've heard it. So don't be in the comment section saying, no, that's not how we talk. Oh, I've heard you guys say these things. You guys take credit for shit that you've never done. You know, they take credit for the stoplight and cell phones. we created cell phones. No, you didn't create a cell phone. Like the first cell phone was created by a black dude, but it don't fucking matter that it was because you're gonna take credit for it and then create a value for yourself based solely on things that are redundant and unreasonable when you really level it up. So your memories are drafted and they're drafted for you by your parents and the surroundings, and then you start hearing racist stuff. And the first time a white little kid hears some racist stuff, they kind of reject it. They're shocked by it, but they hear it over and over and over again. And maybe they challenge it once, and when they challenge it, they get beat down, they get assaulted emotionally, physically, or verbally, right? So they learn to shut the fuck up and let it be. And then they become adults who've spent most of their life ignoring all the stuff around them. And then suddenly in 2024, we're expecting that to change. Like, I was hopeful. I ain't gonna lie to you, I was hopeful, but I knew who was not gonna support a black woman. Now it's white women and Latin Americans. Because no one's more racist towards a black woman than Latin Americans and white women. White women hate black women. Dude, I remember once I dated this white chick for about, I think you kind of remember back in the day when I told you about her, for about 5 seconds. 5 seconds. And then she asked what happened. I said, you know what? Because you've been conditioned your whole life to ignore racism. And so when I asked you, it was something about a black woman. And she literally told me she had nothing in common with a black woman. I came out of a black woman. How do you not have anything in common with a black woman? Y'all want to do your hair and look nice and make good money and have an equal experience and have body sovereignty, but you have nothing in common with them, right? That is learned hatred. Somehow, at some point, she was nurtured by a set of values that devalue the life and the value of a woman, a black woman. And so, once again, white women do not support each other. Like, no one is more caustic and more toxic. Like, a white woman can't tell me nothing, man. You can't tell me, you can't tell me nothing about morality or how to treat or to stand up for somebody because I see how you treat each other. It is like shit.
Well, let me tell you. Let me take it let me take it a step further. And this is where I feel like liberals are very disconnected with the actual tone of America.
Well, no, let's just say not say liberals, let's say white liberals because I'm a liberal.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because the amount of white liberals to black liberals, and when I say white liberals, I say white liberals because white liberals are the ones that are making the decisions. They're the ones that are in
Okay.
charge of the Democratic Party. So
Hmm.
when I say and the
I agree.
number of white liberals to black liberals is is 98 to 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
literally, let's be honest, like black liberals, people that think from a black liberal standpoint are rare. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's true.
black people are going to honestly be to be honest with you, black people are going to most likely think more from a conservative standpoint than from a liberal standpoint anyways
True. True.
because religion. Like
Dude,
under
can I piggyback on that part right there?
go ahead.
True black liberals reject religion because religion is a tool of white supremacy. That's why you'll never see me embrace it because it's a tool of white supremacy.
I understand that, and I understand that as an adult. But you got to understand, I grew up in the church. You know what I'm saying?
I,
Like,
went to, I grew up in the same situation. I
and I
rejected it then. I reject it now.
but you got to understand. So, like, I grew up in the church, and I didn't start really kind of thinking for myself until I was like a teenager, and then I
Mhm.
started myself more as like an adult. So you have to understand that a religion is so embedded in black the black struggle that
Mhm.
once well first of all it began as a tool of white supremacy and white control, right?
Yes.
Because in no situation can you ever be taught a religion that teaches love and compassion from your slave owners.
Thank,
It is literally
thank you.
it is literally
Impossible.
Impossible. It is quite literally impossible for you to be taught about love and compassion for someone that beats and rapes and enslaves you. It's
Thank you.
not right. And there's books that you can go back and look at that talk about how it was like a coordinated effort for white people to like give religion to black people for the purpose of enhancing white supremacy. And I can go
Yes.
deep rabbit hole of the black church, which I feel is such a disappointment when it comes to the black struggle.
Oh man, dude, no one goes harder on the black church than me. For one thing, first things first. It's supposed to be about love, compassion, unity. And there's hardly any white people in this church, bro. You segregated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even talking about the segregation portion because that comes with what I'm saying, that comes just with how the struggle was back then when everything was segregated. But I'm more talking about the standpoint of just we're talking capitalism. Let's talk money. Where does the money in black churches go? Does it go into black banks?
No, it goes into that pastor's BMW where he drives around with a drop top and his community's suffering. Black kids are getting killed in his community. He ain't out on the front. Now, look, look, look. I will say there are black pastors who are on the front line. The front line getting shot at, getting pepper spray, but it ain't a lot. It is not a lot.
But when we're talking, are you talking about them or are you talking about Creflo Dollar that wants a private jet?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
You know what I'm saying?
I'll go deep into the rabbit hole of black church because black churches tend to put their money in white banks, white
Yep.
Jewish bank. You know what I'm saying? There's no, if we want to talk about, like building things for the black community, there should have been black banks. Black churches should put their money in the black banks. They should reinvest it in the black community, but they don't. They put it in white banks. They help establish and continue white supremacy. These banks don't, in turn, give money back to black people. They put it back in the white institutions and back in the white homes, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. And that I can we can that can be a much separate argument for. We can go deep into that rabbit
I
hole,
mean, because
but
think about it. What you just said is every black church put their money into black banks, and black people went to those banks. They are funding black communities
right,
and by giving them loans and giving them opportunities to start businesses. And that money goes right back into that black bank and goes right back into the pockets of other black people. Look, man, I was listening to it must have been Big Sean. Big Sean was talking on Drink Champs, and he was talking about how like he's creating these black institutions because he was like, look, man, we don't have these things. Like he's creating a black hedge fund. He's creating a black like stock market where he has his money in there, and you can put your money with his money because his money already started making money, so you can make more money through him, right? He's creating the first. He's literally opening the first movie theater in Detroit, right? Since they closed the one at the one center somewhere. And like Detroit does not have a movie theater anymore because they closed one down. He's trying to open one near one of the universities out there, right? Black owned. He owns the property. He's an investor. He's a black, like everything, right? Everything this young man trying to do is black everything. But he's an anomaly, right? Jay-Z ain't doing black everything. Black Jay, this motherfucker, he got $1 billion. He can start a bank tomorrow.
yeah. Well, that's the problem though, and that's the reason why it's so difficult for me to really fault anyone but us when it comes to a lot of things. Because if we really took our money that we make a lot of money. We make a lot of money when it comes to entertainment. We make
Mhm.
a lot when it comes to athleticism and sports. We make a lot of money when it comes to, what I'm saying, other ventures that we have. Like black people make a lot of money.
What do you think maybe is one of the outcomes of this situation? Like my uncle said this to me. Right? I texted him. I said, I really don't have a lot to say, but obviously I have a lot to say. But his thing was they showed me who they really are. I don't have much more to say. They showed me who they are and let me know what they really represent and what they really believe.
Who's
And I
that?
can't disagree with that. He's absolutely 1,000% right.
Who is he referring to? Referring
It's
to?
white America. He's pretty much like they told me who they were. This is when it came to the election. They told me who they are, and I'm going to accept who they're telling me they are. I'm never going to think that there's something else. I think black people, as a group of people, need to realize we are we got. There's no one who will stand with us. Like Jewish Americans will stand with us right up until we say, hey, but it's apartheid, and then they don't want to talk to us no more, right?
Nah, but I don't even agree with that because I think Jewish Americans identify themselves as white, and I think they have always identified
Well,
themselves
no,
as
I disagree. They haven't always, but they do identify as white. Look, one of my favorite TV shows that I always bring up, there's a moment in a TV show, Lady in the Water on Apple TV. She's a Jewish woman, right? She's having like a nightmare. And in her nightmare, she sees her aunt. Her aunt walks up to a sign that says no N words, no Jews, no dogs. And she crosses out the part that says no Jews and turns to her niece and says, we're white now. Powerful moment. Powerful. And you're right. They do identify as white right up until white supremacy gets in the way. And then suddenly, but they've also protected themselves with a very strong lobbying group that has they've got their banks, they got their funds, they know that they have to unite, even if it's with groups of them that they don't agree with. Because there's no a monolith, there's no monolith of Jewishness, right? There's non-practicing Jews, there are fundamentalist Jews, there are progressive Jews, there are Jews who are Jew in just the word, but like liberal on everything else, right? But when they have to protect each other, they will put their dollars in there and shut shit down. We do not have that, but we were always denied that. When they destroyed Black Wall Street, they destroyed hope. When they broke up Reconstruction, remember, after we were freed as slaves, we had the right to vote. And they immediately took that away from us. We had some of the first black senators, black representatives, black lawyers, and then suddenly, just think about that. You're free, you can vote, you have your first black representatives, and then suddenly they take all that away. Just think the fucking trauma of that, right? So
yeah.
there's a lot of trauma in black people that gets in the way of unity. And you've also got to think about how they did the hood, right? They defunded the hood, they divest from the hood, and black people have to fight for scraps. They have to survive on standing on each other's necks. So you got that experience. And then you got they put drugs into our communities. They broke up the black family. There's a lot of things they did to where now we're a bunch of individuals. Like, honestly, black people as a whole are a bunch of just individuals who only seem like they all walk in the same line. But I don't think, like you said, I don't think I mean, maybe there's a handful, like your friends and my friends might think the same. But as a whole, no, there are a bunch of individuals out there.
Yeah, see the thing about it is though is that I where you and I see different is I don't see I don't see Jewish money and white supremacy being that disconnected
No, no,
because
I agree
capitalism
with you. No, no, no. I say
capitalism
no. The difference is when Jewish people need to go after white supremacy, they do it as a unit, right? When,
but I
think about it. When people
think
start
I think
YouTube,
it's
Candace Owens.
really
Candace Owens is the proprietor of white supremacy. The
I don't
moment that she started talking crazy about Jewish people, she was
but
off YouTube.
that's what I'm saying. It's not white supremacy as a whole that I feel like they go after that you're referencing. I feel that it's Jewish hatred.
Yeah,
White
that's what
supremacy
I mean. When they have to, when
white supremacy
Jewishness is on the line, they will, like, perfect example. Black, black lives are on the line all the time, and there's a handful of people fighting for that. There's a handful of black YouTubers who have channels like this. Handful. Most of them are they're never going to speak on it. MKHBD's for example, right? He could get pulled over, beat by a cop. He will never talk about racism on YouTube because he is funded by white supremacy. It is not in his interest to speak up against that inequality. Now, there are Jewish YouTubers on YouTube right now who are funded by white supremacy who will reject that shit the moment they start going acting out of pocket.
I think they will start going after they get out of pocket when it comes to something anti-Jewish.
That's what
I
I mean.
I don't believe, yeah, but here's what I'm saying, because we're talking about when you it's going back to a point that you made earlier about
Okay.
CNN and MSNBC. All like if you went and you looked at the people that are the main shareholders and the people that get paid money off of that,
Hmm.
if you did a poll and you looked into their lineage, I'd say most of them were Jewish. I would say
Okay.
most that are running the money that comes from point A to point B are Jewish or of Jewish descent. And the reason why Israel is able to do the things that Israel does is because it has such a relationship with the United States of America. Now, if
Yeah.
you want to talk about what
Yeah.
happened
You're
with
right.
why things happen the way that they happen for the Jewish people, it is because of Israel. The reason why things don't happen for African Americans, and I say African Americans, I don't include Africans into that. I
Yeah.
don't include Kenya or Ghana or Cameroon or Egypt or none of those places. I am strictly talking about the descendants of slaves. Is what I'm talking about. Reason why things happen a certain way, why you don't see issues happening to Africans the way that they happen to African Americans, is because at the end of the day, you can't have things that are going to affect a certain demographic of people that have a country that can hold America accountable. Things happen
Hmm.
to Jews, Israel can hold America accountable. If things happen to black Africans, wherever country they came from, can hold America accountable. When it comes to the treatment of black African Americans, from the beginning of slavery till this very second that we're talking, no one holds America accountable for its treatment of African Americans except America when it feels like it.
I,
The
I
same,
agree.
no one holds men accountable for their treatment of women other than men. And if they don't feel like doing it, it ain't happening. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Thank you
Oh,
for saying. You know what's crazy, man? Last night I had two nightmares for Maya. I have a daughter. I had
mhm.
two nightmares. And they weren't even about like something happening to her. It was just that the fragility of being a girl. So the first time it's like she fell down some stairs. But I knew what it meant. It was the fragility of being a girl. And then the second time was we were getting off this elevator, and the elevator had when you stepped off the elevator, if you were a male, nothing happened. As soon as you stepped off as a girl, an escalator, the floor would move and push you off the edge.
Mhm.
And that's the reality. That's the experience of being a girl. Look, this is why I don't understand white women. Look, hundreds of women have already died because they got denied body sovereignty. Do you know how crazy that sounds? That a woman who only needs a DNC dies because the doctor is scared of getting his license taken from him or put in jail for doing a DNC on a woman who needs a DNC.
Yeah, but you're talking about from a standpoint where these same people will say that a woman doesn't have the right to have an abortion if she's raped. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
These are,
absurd.
but to these people that are from this standpoint, you have to understand how many people that applies to. I grew up. You grew up right on the edge of the South in Ohio. I grew up in Kentucky. That's considered in the South. We're talking about people from Mississippi, in Alabama, in Georgia, the poorest countries or counties and cities and states in the United States of America are the most ultra conservative. They are the most anti women. They're most anti women rights, and a lot of it falls under the guise of religion. I'm telling you, you live in these
No, no, you're
places.
right.
There's
You're
a
right.
there's a church on every other corner. They love guns. They love religion. They love white supremacy and white power. These are the same people that would hang a black person from a tree, and go to church on Sunday.
I have a
These
question
same,
for you. Do you also see misogyny as a part of white supremacy? Because I do.
as a part of white supremacy.
I think it's a very important part of white supremacy. I think it is the fundamental, most important before the disenfranchisement of black people. Misogyny in all of its parts is the most important part of white supremacy. And without white women, white supremacy would be over tomorrow because they would break the system. Like I remember I had that conversation about the church,
Hmm.
and I said the only reason the church still exists is because of white women still going to church, still still feeding still being the harbinger, the nucleus for birth of the church. Without white women, the church would cease to exist tomorrow. Without white women, white supremacy has no function because white supremacy is to curtail a white woman's ability to be with anything other than white. Like the worst thing you can do as a white woman is not be with a white man. That is the fundamentally most important thing to white men in white supremacy. Without white women, white supremacy has no chance. Without them nurturing it and supporting it, it has no chance.
I agree with you, and then I'll double down on that. Who was the who was the single most important person to the initiation of the civil rights movement?
The single most important.
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about like Susan B. Anthony or something like that?
I'm talking about the white woman that accused Emmett Till.
Oh, I thought you meant by like the civil rights movement because honestly, white women who were fighting for their suffrage were on the front lines, and the only reason they even paid attention to us is because a white women were there. But yes, the Emmett Till situation, absolutely.
Because I'm different than you. I love Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. And when he said this on his monologue in SNL, it was extremely true. And he talked about this when Trump won last time. And he talked about how this lie that she told was so impactful for how things have unfolded for black people, because all of this happened based on her lie, which ended up costing that little boy his life, which ended up spearheading the civil rights movement, which ended, you know what I'm saying, up with us living in the society we live now, which is extremely imperfect, but it's so much better than it was in
Yeah.
1950, 1950, 1940. And
So, if, with you saying that, would that also not be a silver lining of, for the first time, white people are going to have to deal with the ramifications of white supremacy? So, they've lived a life where I think, honestly, white people have been protected from the ramifications of white supremacy in the way where disaster happens in the most fundamental ways. I'm talking about, we're going to see, if Trump does what he wants to, you're going to see mass deportations of people, families split up. These things are going to split and and splinter whiteness. It's going to
I don't think so.
burn whiteness to the ground. That's my no, because you made up something very important. Remember, before Emmett Till, white people are okay with what was happening. Think about it. White people are numb to like black men getting shot by cops. They'll find 110 reasons for him getting shot. He had no gun. Oh, but he had a a warrant for some weed, so that means he had the right to be assaulted that way. Or there was a he moved too quickly, or there was a allegation of counterfeit $5 bill. That's how George Floyd died, on the allegation of a counterfeit money.
Right. What you have to really understand is none of that matters to white people. And I'm going to tell you why. The same reason that the United States of America basically got a blank check after 9/11 to do whatever they felt like doing to Muslims and to people that they even felt like was a terrorist. They got a blank check because at the end of the day, white people want to feel safe. And so when they say shit like they're eating the dogs and eating the cats and they're doing all this and immigrants and and illegals are taking your jobs, it's fear. White people are afraid. They're afraid of people that don't look like them, don't
Mm-hmm.
worship them, don't think like them, don't sound like them, aren't where they're from. They're afraid of those things. And what made Trump so so popular and what continues to make him so popular is that you will learn that white people will give a blank check to anyone that makes them feel safe from whatever it is that they make them feel safe from.
I'll do one better for you. I'll do one better.
But here's what I'm saying.
Trump
Let me
was
finish.
them. Trump is scared of the same stuff they're scared of. He's
No, no,
scared
no.
of black people. He's
No.
scared. He has the same fears. You're right. You're right. He has those same things. You're right. Fear is their most important thing. And if they can get their fear nurtured or protected or satiated, they will burn down the whole country. Like I said, they want to be white and safe more than they want to be free.
And that's
More
and
than they
that's
want to be free.
and I'm telling you because if you look at it, that's why they've got a blank check, and that's why they still continue to have a blank check when it comes to like cops. They'll give cops a blank check. Like I don't care if you killed a black person. I'm halfway scared of them. I feel like they're gonna rob me. You keep me safe, so you can do whatever you want to do. And that's how they feel. And so Trump has basically doubled down on that and said, well, I'm going to give cops immunity and I'm going to, make it so that, as long as you feel safe, I'll give a blank check to anybody for whatever it is that they do, so long as you feel okay. And when people will continue to give him a blank check because these are the same people whose parents didn't care about what happened to black people. They were okay if black people got beat and black people got what I'm saying mistreated by the police because why the police have promised that they're going to keep us safe, and I know they won't treat us like that, and they
Well,
won't
you know
treat.
what? They do treat the thing is like that. That is a delusion because they treat white people the same way they treat black people. And actually, if we really are being honest about the numbers, it's like 3 to 1,
They treat
right?
poor whites
Well,
like
they
that.
used to treat poor white people like that. Now they treat all white people. There's rich white people getting their ass dropped regularly by cops. You know the problem is they don't care because they're like, well, hey, I'll accept, like you said, I'll accept some white people being fucked up as long as I can feel safe. And the other thing that white people do that's a thing that's a delusion is they always say, "Not me." Their favorite line is, "Not all white people." Man, some of the things should never be no people. Like no people should be like that. It shouldn't be like not all. It should be none. But the fact that there is some, and it sure tends to be like 50, 60, 70, 80 million that will vote for Trump. That says a lot about America. And you know what? I was listening to and you know what? Journalists talk, and they were so dishonest. Their response was, you know, what was they saying? They were saying like, this is a moment that journalism has been, challenged.
No, no, I disagree. I think journalism was challenged and failed 15 years ago. I think birth of
Yeah, that's what I
social
think.
media made journalism that was being channeled then, and I think the problem is that you have now is that journalism has gone. True journalism has mostly gone the way of the dinosaur, and it's about
Hmm?
picking a side, whatever side that is, and trying to monetize whatever that side is. You know what I'm saying? And so Fox News has
Yep.
picked the far right side. They cater to far right people because that's the demographic of people that pump money into them. MSNBC has picked the far left side. They cater to far lefts and progressives and all this other stuff. And that's who they cater there. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's not about anybody that's really in the middle. It's about we're going to monetize from this way or we're going to monetize for that way. And they understand that the average person is going to sway back and forth between one of those two things. And then, so like
Mhm.
Obama was, everyone's going to swing to the left because we are on the train of what he's talking about. He's talking about hope and he's talking about the things he, Obama was like a perfect candidate. Like he was literally like when it comes to politics, he was about as perfect of a candidate as you can possibly put. And on the opposite spectrum of that, you have Trump, who's the absolute worst candidate. Yet both of them are going to do 2 terms, which is an indictment on how America will sway left or right. And America isn't, and it's just the way that it is. America is not prepared to sway the way of a woman president, right?
Well, I don't think that. I think America is
I,
engineered. America is
I, I,
engineered. Look, first things first. Look in Ohio. I was talking to my cousin. All right, so he was talking about how they gerrymandered Ohio in such a way that it was considered unconstitutional. Yet when the Supreme when the court said you had to go and fix the map, they did not. They said no, we're not going to fix it until by the time the election came, there was no way that any of the black leaders had an opportunity to win an office. The one thing that the Republican Party is good at, which the Democrats do not participate in, is engineering elections. Saying what we would consider anti-American, the Republican Party does every single day to guarantee that they win. Because in America, they are a minority. Like these racist people are a minority. And if we had the popular vote, Trump would not have been
well,
elected.
in this election he would have, but here's the deal. Here's the deal, and here's what I'm gonna tell you. I love this segment that came from. It's one of my favorite political segments to ever like see. It's a video. You've probably seen it. It's a video show called The
Mm-hmm.
Newsroom, and in this
Yeah.
show, Jeff Jeff Daniels, actor Jeff Daniels, he's on a stage and he's right next to a conservative politician and he's right next to a liberal politician. Liberal is a woman and the conservative is a male. And in this piece, and I'll send it to you. It's amazing. You can go see it on YouTube. And it's entitled "Why America is Not the Greatest Country Anymore." And in this piece, um, it's like a Q&A kind of thing, and he's sitting on stage with these two other individuals, and there's a moderator that's there, and a young, 20-something-year-old white girl comes up, and there's a list of people, and there's a line of people that are asking questions, and she gets up and she says, "Can you guys tell me in one sentence why America is the greatest country on earth?" And the woman says, whatever she says. I think she says, something to the tune of talking about, politics or something. There's some reason why she said America was greatest. And then the white male that was the conservative says, um, freedom and freedom. And then they get to Jeff Bridges' character, and he was like, he basically didn't want to answer, and he just kind of piggybacked off to what they say. He was like, "Oh well, it's what she said and what he said." And the moderator's like, "No, I want a real answer from you." And he kind of like, hesitates to really give an answer, and then he eventually gives an answer, and he looks over to the woman that's the liberal, and he said, "You want to know why people don't like liberals?" He said, "Because you guys are losers." He said, "If liberals are so smart, then why do you lose so goddamn always?" And then he goes into a rant about, statistically why America is not the greatest country in the world. And the thing that he said about when he was speaking to the woman that's a liberal is true. And if you look at Republicans at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day will do whatever it takes to win. They will lie.
That's what I
I'm
said. That's what I
piggybacking right
meant.
off of what you said. They will lie. They will cheat.
Yeah.
They will move the goalposts.
Yep.
They will fucking do whatever it takes to win. And the problem that I have with Democrats is Democrats will go, shame on you. You shouldn't do that. And they don't have the same kind of fight that Republicans have when it comes to fighting for whatever it is that you want. And that disenfranchise
Perfect
a lot of
example
people.
right now, right? Right now. The Supreme Court said that the president can do anything he wants to protect the United States. Any act that he makes is constitutional. Now, right at this very moment, your boy Biden can go, you know what? No, this election is null and void because Trump is a convicted rapist. But not just that, this man tried to overthrow the government, and I'm not going to allow America to go that route. He could do what Abraham Lincoln did and say, you know what? I don't know if I have the power to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And they can argue about it in the courts, but I'm going to do what I need to do to protect this country. Now, do you think, like you just said, because Trump tried to do it. He tried. He did everything he could. He was going to null the entire Constitution because he felt like he should have been president. Do you think Biden has the stomach? I said this a long time ago. When Biden was still running for president, I'm like, Biden, you have all the power right now to make sure that he can't even be on the ballot. You could declare it. You could declare it that a person who has 34 convictions for rape cannot be on the ballot. I'm the president of the United States, and that's my word. And the Supreme Court said you can do it, and it's constitutional. Do you think he has the guts to do it? No, he was going to sit here and let this man come back to office, and he's not going to do anything about it when he has the power to. The Supreme Court says you have all power to protect the United
The problem that
States.
we're going to have is we're going to learn exactly what that means because now everything that you're talking about, Trump is going to push all those buttons. And the problem that I have and this is when I really lost a lot of respect for the Democratic Party. I lost a lot of respect for the Democratic Party, and I'm sure a lot of people did too, because at the end of the day, people don't like supporting losers. And in America, at the end of the day, Americans want to feel like they are winners. It doesn't matter what it is. America has this arrogance that comes with it when it comes to sports, when it comes to anything that it has to be a winner. And Trump taps into that. But an issue that I had with the Democratic Party that made me lose so much respect, and I consider them to be spineless cowards, is uh, when the Supreme Court justice, what's his name, passed away, and
Oh, and they allowed them to
they
kick it down,
allowed
and
them,
they refused force them to allow him to pick a
they
Supreme Court
allowed,
justice. Yeah,
they
that was
allowed
nonsense.
fucking, they allowed, no, I'm talking about when Obama was president, and he was going to, yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. When they
when
refused
they
to allow him to
refused
put a Supreme
to
Court
fucking
justice in
allow
there.
him to fill that position, and Democrats allowed it to fucking happen, and then they kicked the ball down the fucking street to when Trump was elected president, and then he ended up putting two Supreme Court justices in there, and then when the
Yep.
exact same situation happened, when Supreme Court um, uh,
It was Alito, right?
the woman,
No, was it
the
Alito
woman,
that passed away?
her name escapes me. God, she's the most popular one of all. The one with the glasses, the old white lady, uh,
The,
Ginsburg. Yes,
Ginsburg.
Ruth Ginsburg. When she passed away, and the exact same thing happened, and they rushed that fucking, and Democrats didn't pull the same move. I lost so much respect for the Democratic Party because they all they did was bitch and whine and complain and say you guys shouldn't have done that, and they didn't have the same fucking fight and spine and we will do whatever the fuck it takes that the Republicans have. And that alone, that decision when it came to three Supreme Court justices, has shaped the fucking country.
But you know what the
Wait,
problem is? See, uh, they don't have any
they don't.
gangsters in the Democratic Party. If we put in gangsters in the Democratic Party, these cats would be like, "Look, we're gonna cut necks. You talk crazy in here. I'm gonna put my hands on you." They don't
They
have
don't
that
have.
mentality because you got a bunch of Harvard and Yale spineless Democrats who are elected to office, and they are more about decorum than they are about having that motherfucking behavior that says, no, I'm gonna get this passed today. And if one of y'all Republicans say something, I'm gonna make sure y'all don't go home in a body bag. I'll tell you, because that's how it is in other countries. Some dudes are putting their hands, they're like, look, I'll burn this motherfucker down. But they don't have Democrats like that. Republicans will burn the Capitol to the ground. Democrats will be like, we should be decorum. That's all because of what we have in there, man. Now they're cowards and they're spineless and they're weak they're okay with it. Cory Booker ain't no gangster. That dude is
Also,
soft.
you got to understand. There's no fight in the Democratic Party. There's no, and that's what I feel like they come from this elitist standpoint where they're like, shame on you, and it's like,
You know why? Because the Democrats are, I'm gonna say, everyone's an
yeah,
actor and they're
they are.
performers and they're performing the founding fathers. See, the founding fathers were intellectuals on both sides, liberal and conservative. You know, they were intellectuals. These guys read everything. They could quote Nietzsche. They could quote Socrates. They could quote Sartre. They quoted. They knew everything. They were well read. We don't have that anymore. We have a group of well-read individuals, and then you got Marjorie Taylor Greene over here who can't read, who barely graduated from who barely graduated from high school. So you got intellectuals who thinking they talking to other intellectuals, but they not. They talking to trash. So you got to bring it like in the moment we start electing gangsters. I'm talking about dudes who are in the street and put them in a position of power. I'm talking about dudes who sold crack, dudes who sold rock, dudes who did real fucking stuff. Walk in there and run for office. These white dudes on the other side are going to get bodied by these individuals because they will be like, look, motherfucker, I will kill
Bro, I
you.
smacked the shit.
Don't you talk
The thing
crazy to
about it
me.
is, if Donald Trump had talked about my wife the way he talked about Ted Cruz's wife, I'd put my hand
Boy, he'd
on
been
stage.
bodied. I would have knocked
I'd have
him
told him
out so
straight up, listen,
quickly.
man, I'll knock you the fuck out in front of the American public. And that's what the Democratic Party needs. They need somebody to be like, yo, listen, I'll smack the shit out you if you fucking talk to me crazy like that again. And it's like they don't have people that are willing to put forth that fight. So you're right. There's intellectuals, but the problem is like they're like intellectuals that are playing roles in Hamilton.
That's what I mean. They're playing. They're actors. They are playing. They want to be Abraham Lincoln, but I guarantee you, Abraham Lincoln was a gangster.
Also,
I guarantee. No man says, you know what? You want to succeed? I'll burn this motherfucking country to the ground. Republicans got that. I don't know any liberal that has that
straight up, man. And they
mentality.
will. And the thing about it is they will be okay with burning everything to the ground. And you have to have somebody on the other side to match that. And that's why when it comes to like certain things, that's why I disagree with liberals and Democrats always trying to take the high road with everything. To me, you can't take the high road with everything. I
No, they were saying that they were going after Biden for calling MAGA people garbage. Like, what are we talking about here? He's talking about black people eating dogs, eating birds, eating people's animals, eating people's cats. And you talking about don't call them garbage? Man, you should call them shit. Like, what's
The
going
problem
on
is liberals
here?
want an apology for everything. They hurt your feelings, they want an apology. If they say something that they feel like isn't right, they want an apology. Remember when Barack Obama said that these that whites can they basically hold on to their guns and their religion, and they basically like they were
Yeah.
like, oh, he should apologize for that. The fuck are you talking about? That was
That's exactly
But the
what they
thing about it
do.
is, the man had to go out and apologize, like because it hurt. It could possibly hurt some Republicans' feelings that what he said, which is a factual statement, might offend somebody. And the problem with the liberals is they feel like you should never offend anybody. You should never not have a certain level of decorum. And they're going up against people that have no decorum, that they don't care. And they got to understand that the majority of the people in this country don't care. They will support Donald Trump and they don't care. They appreciate his braggadociousness. They appreciate the fact that he's unapologetic about it.
Man, do you know? I say this for real. If we had a liberal who talked like Trump, you know those black men who voted for, they would
Of
never have
course not.
voted for Trump.
They a lot of people that voted for Trump wouldn't vote for Trump. But it's also the platform. You got to realize that the problem with coming out of the Democratic Party, and a person like that could never come out of the Democratic Party because it's not going up against the status quo of what the Democratic Party really wants to see themselves as. Like, I'll be completely honest, I'm a lot more conservative when it comes to a lot of things, and I'll be completely honest about it. Like, and it'll come off, if I say it, it'll come off like, oh, he's transphobic, or oh, he's this, or he's that. If I say something like, if you're born a biological male, you should compete against others that are born biological male. Now I'm transphobic. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, I'm not I'm not supporting trans rights and this and that and the other. But what you got to understand is the average American, the majority of Americans are going to say that, and they're going to agree with that, and they're going to be like, "This is exactly the way it is." No, if you're born a male and you still have a penis, you should go compete against guys that still have a penis. And I'm not talking about somebody that like was some 1% of 1% of 1% of person that was born with both, and your parents had to make a decision and maybe whatever. No, no, no. I'm talking about went through puberty as male, you have the muscle mass and the muscle fibers of a male. You have the testosterone of a male. Even if you try to dim that down, it's still genetically you've got this and this chromosome, and now you want to compete against girls. The problem is if you came out and you were a hardcore gangster like Democrat, and you were like, "Yeah, I agree with that." You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a male, you still got a penis, go pee with the men. You know what I'm saying? But if you say that, Democrats are going to be like, well, no, don't say that. Everyone should. And you got to understand the vast majority of people feel like that. Like, hey, go fucking, if you want to stand in the urinal or,
I was me on this part right here. If you're a gangster, you
and
don't give a fuck.
that's what the Democrats is.
No. Real talk. Like if you ask, if like, I'll go in there. You know who I am. You know how I act. You know how I talk. I talk to him just like I talk to him. But if there's someone to ask me whether or not a trans person should be on a woman's team, I'm like, how the fuck does that have anything to do with the economy, foreign trade? Look, y'all figure that out socially. That's y'all social issue. My job is to make sure that we get this shit done. If I gotta knock out a Republican, I'll knock his dumb ass out. If I gotta kick, saying Ted Cruz in his face, I'll kick him in his face to get a liberal justice on the court. If I'm here to protect women's right to choose to do what she wants to do with her body, don't be asking me dumbass questions. I'll smack you in your face too. You need to treat them just like that because those are not conversations. They're not going to ask, what's Trump do when you ask him that question? I ain't answering that question. I don't give a fuck. That's exactly how
But
he
here's the thing,
responds
though,
to
and
it.
this is why I have a problem with it, is because when it comes to issues, Democrats are gonna try and pander. They're gonna try to pander to whoever it is they're gonna try to pander to. This was one of the most.
Hey, that's what. Hey, no, but that's what
But
Republicans
I,
do. What you
I
just said earlier is that he is who he needs to be in front of whoever he needs to be
I
like in front of, and that's what we need as a
I
Democratic
understand that,
representative.
but in the sense that I'm talking about it, I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi and the fucking Democratic Party when that shit happened with George Floyd, and they wanted to put on the fucking kente cloths and kneel and do that dumb shit. It was the dumbest fucking shit of all fucking time, and they were just pandering because they don't genuinely give a fuck. And that's when
Well, no, but see, there's a difference though, because if you put people in there who do give a fuck, because I would have kneeled, I'd put that shit on, I would have represented him, because I honestly give a damn. The difference is that we don't have those liberals look dumb.
as
You're
a
right.
person, So
because they
as a
honestly don't
black
give a damn.
person, that's gonna matter to you. None of the motherfuckers that did that dumb shit when they did that shit in the middle of the fucking Congress and Nancy Pelosi sitting her old ass in there, but she's never put on an article clothing like that in her life, and she hasn't put it on since. She don't give a fuck. You and I give a fuck because it matters to us. As black men, it matters to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go put a fucking kente cloth on because I don't wear a goddamn kente cloth. You
No, I'm gonna go up there and take a knee and represent
exactly,
my
but I'm gonna
people. Look, what you said
like
is
this
right.
is what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? And it's like they want to pander to people, and I'm not, and I'm just talking about from the standpoint of like if you genuinely give a fuck about stuff, you have the ability to make these changes. You have ability to really make prison reform a thing. Democratic Party.
You also remember though, their mentality is we got to get along. We got decorum. We're going to talk. We're not going to. So the biggest problem, I think you're absolutely right. No one wants to support these individuals because they
They
suck.
suck, and then they will openly lose and then whine about it. No one gives a fuck about somebody that wants to whine. They want you to win. People want to feel safe. They want to feel like they're with a winner. They want to feel like, and people are mad at me because like I've been saying it. America's sexist. America don't like white women don't want a woman in charge. Like at the end of the day, you really have to like people really have to understand the aspect that a lot of women have a problem with a woman being in charge because a lot of women one don't like women. A lot of women do
Yep.
not like women, and women don't aren't really honest about that like on a social level. You know what I'm saying? I see it with my daughter. I see how she interacts with women, and it's from a young age. A lot of women don't genuinely like women. I listen to my wife all the time talking about her friends, and she will talk about her friends after getting on the phone with her and being he. Listen, as men, we will talk bad about each other to each other and
To each
not mean
other.
it.
And or you should be holding them
But
accountable. You should be calling. You be
like,
telling them the truth, and they love you enough to go. You know
but I
what? You're
mean from
right.
a standpoint of like, bro, your shirt sucks. That's an ugly ass shirt you got on. You know what I'm saying? But like you won't take it like that. You won't take it like, you know what I'm saying? Women will compliment each other to each other's faces and not mean it. Oh, that's a rush
Oh, that's yeah, man. So it's funny you bring that up.
and will not.
So last night, my like me and you will like disagree. We'll disagree vehemently and still have the
Yeah.
conversation, even if we're on opposite ends of that. We ain't hanging up the phone. When we hang up the phone, we're like,
Oh,
"All right, cool. Holla at you." Like we
oh.
figured it out, right? My cousin, man, the dude, he act like, I swear to God, when I'm talking to that motherfucker, I tell him straight up, like, dog, what's your point? What's your point? He'll get an attitude and hang up on me. Like that's what
See,
girls do. And I called him out. I you didn't
what
say nothing, but I called him out on it yesterday. I was like, yo, man, you act like a woman when you do that,
because
man.
he's
I don't like
raised
that
around
shit.
women. Because you gotta understand, a lot of dudes have been raised around women, and they think from a women's standpoint. Like a lot of these people that are like in single parent households, they pick up a lot of tendencies from women. They pick it up from their grandmother. They see how their mother handles conflicts. They see how their aunts handle conflicts. They see how their grandmother handles conflicts. And so a lot of dudes really are in a situation where if they in that type of a situation and they weren't like around men to understand how to handle things as a man, they handle situations like a woman would handle situations, and it's like it's a learned behavior sometimes. It's like it's who was the matriarch in your family. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where certain people got that kind of a personality, man. But it's like I had a strong father in my life. I understand about conflict, man. I understand how to handle conflicts as a man. Listen, we gonna talk it out or we gonna fight it out. One of those two things happen.
For
There's not gonna be
real.
animosity after it. It's gonna be we gonna talk it out, we gonna fight it out. And then if we can't solve it that way, you know what I'm saying, then we can come back and double back at some other time and until we
For
get to that
real.
point, you know what I'm saying? But it's like women have more of a they when it comes to conflict it's more they'll tear a woman's life apart. It's versus like an actual physical confrontation. Men don't have a physical confrontation. Well, address
Yeah.
the issue like directly, but women are like it'll become a social thing. I will try to destroy her reputation amongst people that she associates with, amongst my friends, her friends, whoever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's some crazy shit, man. That's
But you got to
vindictive as
understand. So
hell.
that's why when I say, like on a social standpoint, women, a lot of women voted against Kamala simply because she was a woman, and it
Yeah,
boggles
no, you're
people's
right.
mind when I say that. They're like, no, people at work think that people think like them, and I'm like, no, you got to understand. When Trump got 81% of the white women vote in Georgia, it wasn't based on policies. It was based on a lot of them. A lot of these women are okay being in a situation where they are in a certain specific hierarchy in their own families. Listen, my husband is in charge. You know what I'm saying? Like, liberal women wanted everything to be 50-50. Hispanics don't want things to be 50-50. They live in a society where their men are running the show and they are in a subservient motherly, wifely household. That is a staple in the Hispanic community. They fucking like my daughter's mom is Hispanic. I see how they interact with each other. They serve their men. They go to a party, it is considered rude, and the older women will get on your ass if you don't fix your man a plate. That's a real fucking thing. You know what I'm saying?
No,
It's
I'm not
a real
saying it's
thing in
not.
our
I mean,
society to this day. They will tell you, don't fix your man. What the fuck are you doing? Like, don't, like, because if you don't fix him, his plate, another woman will. And they will tell you straight up, this is how their society, like, works. And so they don't necessarily see women as being in that position. Like, I don't want to, they will tell you straight up, like, I don't want a woman in this position because I don't trust women. And I've heard women say that. I don't trust women in this position. And,
right,
and,
man.
and
So how do we ever? Okay, so I'm gonna push back on that. I'll tell you why. Because in Europe, there's been female
no, I'm talking
prime
about a,
ministers. In some of
I'm
the,
talking
hold
about
on, let me finish. In Asian countries, in Japan, there has been female represent presidents.
also,
There have been female
also,
presidents around the world, but in the
I'm
United
not saying
States. So is this an American thing you're talking about, or is this
I'm
a
saying it's an
world thing?
American thing because you have to look at how our you have to look at
Okay.
how our political system is set up. Because I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't feel like you're ever gonna see, and if you do, it'll be a long ass fucking time before you see a woman at the top of the Republican ticket. They just won't fucking do it. You got to be completely honest. Like you have one party
No, no,
that's
I
probably
agree
never.
with you. So
They will
what
put a
is
woman.
it?
They will
So
put
what is wrong with the culture in the United States? Let's just hit that point because there is a cultural problem. Now I believe what I said before, where white supremacy is misogyny is the most important factor, and putting a woman in her place is the most important factor for white supremacy to be effective, and that white women are okay with that. I think you just exposed the truth that that's probably
what do you?
likely.
Which party do you think is going to be more likely to have issues with misogyny? It's going to be, of
For the
course,
Republican
and that's what
Party.
I'm saying. Like the things that I'm saying are because you're going to have that issue with the Republican Party. They are going to be openly misogynistic, and
You know what's crazy though? You want to hear
that
something crazy? I truly believe if the Republicans put forth a woman, Democratic women would vote for her.
I believe that I believe that a Democratic woman would vote for a Republican woman because she's a woman before a Republican woman would vote for a Democrat.
Will vote for a Democratic woman because
Exactly.
she's a
And I
woman.
do I because Democrats do they tend to be more idealistic when it comes to that. Republicans are going to just vote across their party line regardless of what happens. And you see it with Trump. Like I know a lot of people that think that a lot of Republicans that think that Trump is the most vile person ever, and still went to the fucking like booth and
Yeah,
tallied
they
his
went and
name up.
voted
Like
for him.
you can't repulse Democrats in the same way and get the same level of support. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were a Democrat, if Trump was a Democrat as a Democrat, he would have never made it out of the Democratic as a Democrat.
Oh,
It
oh no, no, he would never have made it out of there. No,
was
no, there's no way. Like I said before, you said it perfectly. Obama was a perfect
perfect.
candidate. But I'll argue that Kamala Harris was the most perfect female candidate that you could have. She was a vice president. She's a ex attorney general. She is an ex senator. No, you can't be more qualified for the office than that. If she was a man, nobody would be questioning her
But that's
credentials.
what I talk about when I say that sexism. And I believe this is one of the rare situations where I think sexism trumps racism. I think it's rare. I
I agree. I think in this situation, you got a double entendre. You got sexism from females and you got racism from white males. And those come to converge together to really compromise. If this was Obama again, this would have been over at 6 o'clock.
that shit would have been over at 5:01. It would have been completely over. You know what I'm saying? But it's a different set of circumstances. And Democrats had the ability. I think the problem is that Democrats have been trying to set this up for the last probably 12 years. They've been trying to put a woman in the White House for the last 12 years since
Since Hillary.
since Hillary. And the reason why they wanted to put Hillary in because a lot of Democrats jumped off of the ship for supporting Barack Obama. When Hillary thought that she was going to be the nominee, and then Barack Obama came out of nowhere. He came
Yeah.
out of nowhere. I remember the first time I heard about Barack Obama was from a white lady. I was selling washers and dryers in Sears, and this was in 2007. And I was telling it, this progressive looking older white woman came in, and she was like, "Did you hear about this candidate Barack Obama? I love him. I had never heard about Barack Obama." She's like, "Yeah, he's a senator from Illinois, and he's amazing." And I was like, "Really? Never heard of him?" All of a sudden, boom, he just came out of nowhere and was phenomenal. And what happened was is that year Hillary Clinton was the shoe in.
Yeah, she was.
She was the
She
shoe in,
was talking, but she did herself in because she said things that were just ridiculous about Barack Obama.
but it didn't matter because she had automatically assumed that she was going to get the nomination
That's what
regardless.
I mean. She figured, oh, why is this scrub walking in here trying to take my spot? Ain't no way he gonna be able
Ain't,
to run with me.
ain't no way. And what happened was is that the the people that had supported her and that were financially backing her and that had been what I'm saying, part of her machine that had put her in the position that she was in, like left and went to Barack Obama because the momentum was too crazy. And they were like, listen, we got to get on this political train here, or we're gonna get left. And we're not gonna get left. Like, this is crazy. So what
Mm-hmm.
happened when Barack Obama did his term, these individuals doubled back after he ran his term, and they were like, they had been trying to be apologetic and try to make amends to Hillary Clinton for what they had did. And what ended up happening was they did that at the expense of Bernie Sanders.
Man,
Because they
man, just to put it, let's talk about Bernie Sanders. Because if Bernie Sanders was the candidate, he would have won so easily. Man, I went out and I was a poster for Bernie Sanders. I knocked on doors for Bernie Sanders. I was all about Bernie Sanders, and I was so angry that the Democratic Party undermined him. Because honestly, he was maybe. I think that Kamala Harris is a great and a fundamentally, profoundly great candidate. Bernie Sanders was probably like 10 times that to me.
was. And he was a phenomenal candidate, and he got undercut because they were trying to make amends to Hillary Clinton. They were like, "We will put a woman in the White House, and you will be that woman, and we're going to get behind you 100%." And that became the agenda for the Democratic Party, and they didn't really understand, and they didn't really take the pulse of the nation to understand that yes, people are racist, but they're equally sexist in this country. And she's not going to win simply because people want a feel good story of whether she's a woman. Like, you're going to have a lot of women. For every one woman that votes for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman, you're going to have 2 to 3 that are going to go vote against her because she's a woman, regardless of what she said.
So here's
Listen,
my question to you.
you said
I
I'm
mean,
gonna let you
go
get
ahead,
some
go
more.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, but to to I have a counter to your point. I think from a political standpoint, Hillary Clinton was a superior candidate to Kamala Harris. Now Kamala was a vice president and was closer to the office, But if you talk about from a politician standpoint, the Clintons are machines, and Hillary Clinton was the best candidate to put forward at that time out of all the candidates. She was, when it comes to her qualifications over Donald Trump qualifications, she was overly qualified for the
Yeah,
job.
no, there was no question. No, no, that's not what I meant. I mean,
And
my
no,
question. Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying because I do believe that to me, Kamala Harris was like a diet Hillary Clinton. Like in the sense of we had seen it before. We seen somebody that was well suited for the job. A woman, not someone, a woman was well suited for the job, had the qualifications for the job, was well spoken for the job, and was so much more qualified than her male counterpart.
I
But
mean,
was
she
going
destroyed Trump in the debate. Like
and
anybody else is done.
is done.
So first thing I want to say, when people want to go and dissect this, it was not about whether Shapiro was on the ticket. It wasn't about black voters. It wasn't even about the policy. The reason why she lost is because of white supremacy. That's it. Zero zilch. There's nothing else to talk about. That was Trump had no policies.
And I,
Project
and I
2025, nobody wants that. But that was his biggest policy.
he didn't need to, and that's the point. Like what it proved is that you can be an overly qualified woman and be an underqualified white male, and you'll still get the job
Because
because
that's literally the definition of white privilege.
that is it literally. And so what he was fighting on is I will protect white privilege, and he's run on that, and he won twice because he was like, listen, I will, I will fight to protect your white privilege.
That at the end of the day, that is exactly what he ran on. That's why he run. And like I said before, white people want to be white more than they want to be American, and they want to be in front of the line way more than they want to be free. And if they gotta sacrifice freedom in America to get to that front of that line, they'll do it every single time because that's their innate instinct. That's something they were born with. They were nurtured by this their whole life. It's like Kool-Aid. This white supremacy is like Kool-Aid for white people. They will drink that shit up every single time because that is exactly what they want to be nurtured by. And we, black Americans, I realized we can't save this country. I told my friend she's Jewish. I said, you know what I realized? Black people can't save this country. So I hope y'all figure it out because we've been in the we've so far have kept this country from going over the edge. And I don't think we'll be able to stop it from going to where it's about to go to now.
Well, and that's on them, and that's on whoever wants to take responsibility for that, which it'll be, and they won't be white people. They'll never take responsibility for that. They'll never take responsibility. It'll be, well, it was Biden's fault, or it was Obama's fault, or it's, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, at the end of the day, they'll never take responsibility for the state of this country because it'll be someone else's fault. It'll be there's too many immigrants, black people in welfare, and it'll be somebody else's fault for any and everything that happens to this country. And you're right, black people can't save America, not in that same sense. You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to certain things, black people can't have made a difference. Like when it came to gun control, when guns were an issue, guns were never the only time in American history the guns were like
When the Black Panthers were walking down the street in California with them, all of a sudden AR-15s are an issue. You know what I'm saying? You got to do something about those guns.
he got to get these off the streets. They can't be out here. And then black people started getting killed by some cops, and then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden, it's very dangerous for black people to act like a white male. And so then they were like, okay, cool, everything balanced out. We can bring all the guns back. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, yeah, black people can do a lot of things, but at the
Yeah, but
end
it's
of the
always at the cost of our blood and our lives. What I
right,
mean by we can't save this country through the vote.
no, no,
That's
no, no.
that's the biggest problem. There's no way to look. No one's more passive in this country, and it's not a bad thing than black people. We've experienced so much BS. If we wanted to, we could burn this whole country to the ground. We could burn this country to the ground, make it disappear, and make people suffer. We have not done that. White people, like I said, they've experienced being black for what, a year and couldn't handle it. We experienced this for generations, and we have been good neighbors. Good neighbors. We've been mistreated, disenfranchised, murdered, the denied equal representation, right? We've been good neighbors, but we can't save this country. This is not on us.
I feel like black people should have a separate representative with a direct line to the UN.
For
I'm being completely
real, no,
honest
I agree with you.
because when I talk about who can hold America accountable for its treatment of black people other than America,
It's the UN.
and I feel like we should always have had representatives that can sanction America for its treatment of black people. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yep.
America always wants to go in front of the UN and act like it's, you know what I'm saying, this holier than thou
Yeah.
entity. And it's actually had slaves and just started treating black people with dignity and respect 50 years ago. So how in the world can
That's the craziest thing, right? Like when people ask me, or they'll say something like they're shocked. And I'm like, yo, my mom had to have soldiers lead her into school. What are you talking about? Like this, there's no way you Kamala Harris had sheriffs protect her inside of school. And then every white person pulled their kid out of school and she sat in that school by herself. We can't make this up, man. This is the country we live in. And I am disappointed in the white people. This is your fault. They ain't nobody else's fault. Y'all out there trying to make excuses, CNN trying to point fingers. You need to look right in the mirror. Y'all did this.
and that's what you got to understand. But the problem is when you talk about these things, they want to make it seem as though this stuff happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I'm like,
No.
no, my mom, my mom couldn't fucking go to a restaurant and sit down in a restaurant with a white person where she was from until she was 20. My mom was born in 1949. You know what I'm
That's what I'm talking about.
saying?
Like, we
Great,
have
great,
parents and grandparents who lived through segregation. And I remember sitting in front of my grandmother. When I sat in front of her, she was already 100 years old. She used to be a slave. You just realize I'm like 8 years old, 7 years old. I'm sitting in front of a woman who understood slavery. Her parents were slaves. She remembers that as a baby. And I'm sitting there like, fuck. And you got white people acting like this was thousands of years ago. Nah, man. I remember sitting in front of my grandmother, her telling me stories. My great great grandmother, I mean. You know what I'm saying? Not my grandmother, but my great great grandmother.
but you got to think about it, and that's the problem is that when you talk about these individuals, they want to act like this stuff happened so long ago, and they want to act like the country is healed from that. And I'm like, no, you got to understand. These people are still alive. These people that were disenfranchising people are still alive. You know what I'm saying? They got a picture of Jerry Jones that they brought up right recently where he was standing with a group of students and they were keeping out a black student from coming into the school. And they
Oh
got
yeah, I
pictures.
remember seeing that picture. And they're acting like Jerry Jones ain't still that guy. He's still that dude. What y'all talking about, man?
What makes you think that he's a different person? You know what I'm saying? And
He's
so it's
not.
like, so it's like they want to act like these things exist, and then they don't exist, and then it's like y'all don't see the world as it really is, and y'all been lying to yourselves. And liberals like to lie to themselves a lot. White
But
liberals.
liberals lie to themselves because you know what? It feels good to say these things. They think that the world is in their head and they ignore all reality. Like you said, our liberals are weak, spineless, and I'm not talking about black people. We're talking about white liberals who graduate from Yale with a degree in law and political science, who can quote can quote Hamilton and Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson They can quote these men verbatim. They studied them in school and they wanted to be those guys. Don't get me wrong, because when I was in school, the president that I really liked was Thomas Jefferson. The reason why I liked Thomas Jefferson because he was a gangster. And I tell you why Thomas Jefferson was a gangster. You know, most people don't understand. When he was sitting in there and they were picking the votes, right? Virginia's votes were a little weird, right? So he's running to be president. Their votes are weird. People are like questioning the Virginia vote. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to protect this country and I'm going to elect myself because I am the better president. And he did it. And he was right. We don't got those kind of, like, Kamala Harris is going to sit in there. She's going to sit with the ability to say, you know what? No.
No.
She ain't going to do it, though, because as a liberal, she believes, like, at this point in our nation, we need somebody who's going to say, nah, fuck that. We ain't going down that road. We know what's going to be, what it's going to cost us. It's already cost us women's lives. Like, if you're not willing to go, nah, fuck that, we ain't doing that. I'm throwing all this out. Trump is not a viable candidate, and just because you voted for him doesn't mean we should elect him. But we ain't gonna do that. But
Nah.
anyway, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know you still your evening and you spend some time with your wife and stuff like that, man. But with that said, dude, we can go ahead and close it out.
That's what's up, man. Well, I appreciate the moment of hopping back on and whatnot. Yeah, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand how things are. You understand how things are. So, you know, all we can do is hope this thing's like works itself out. But I wash my hands of it. It's not on me no more.
You know what, man? I felt bad for, I don't know, a few hours, and then I was over it. I was like, it ain't on me.
It ain't on
It ain't
us.
on us.
Ain't on
So
us.
whatever comes next, like, I can sit back and go, y'all wanted this. Y'all deal with this nonsense now. We protected you guys for a long time. Now it's your time to buck up and take responsibility for the country you created.
Yep. All right,
With
bro.
that said, man, I holla at you. Love you, bro.
Peace.
All right, man. Gone.